Okay, my clock shows 11 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. My name is Murat Mirata from Linköping University, belonging to a small unit working with industrial and urban symbiosis. And very welcome to this third webinar that is organized as part of CORALIS EU project that we are soon concluding after 4 years with more than 28 partners from Europe. The purpose of these webinars is, of course, on one hand, profile the work that we have done in CORALIS, but also discuss some of the issues that are generally of relevance to industrial symbiosis developments in Europe and beyond. And one of the important issues in industrial symbiosis is the management of information and knowledge, which is very important all the way from the identification of possibilities to assessing their potentials, their potential impacts, to mobilize on them, to get the agreements in place, etc., as well as the continuation of the healthy continuation of the relationships. And there is also an area that attracted a lot of attention from the earlier days of industrial symbiosis. People quite rightly identified the relevance and importance of information, and a number of tools have been developed. A study from 2016 as part of another EU project called FISAC listed 22 such tools, and in my rough estimation, another 10 has been added to the pool since then, many of which is sponsored by the public funds from the EU and other sources. So, and it is not entirely clear what these tools deliver. How effective are they? Are they really meeting their promise? Could you please try to mute your microphones? Okay. Yeah. So, and today, this is what we will try to dive into a bit deeper. We are very fortunate to have some key people who actually have insights about the information and knowledge management. We have Nikos Koufokotsios from Athens Brewery in Greece, who is the head of sustainability, digital and reporting. In his daily life, Nikos is responsible for creating and maintaining symbiotic relationships. Then we have Yifei Yu and Devrim Yazan from University of 2020 that work with the development and implementation of information and knowledge management tools in the context of industrial symbiosis. Last but certainly not the least, we have Stella Georgali and Haralabos Manousiadis, also known as Babis, who have worked with us in the CORALIS project to develop and implement an information and knowledge management tool, but also have former experience. So before any ado, I will start by giving the word to Devrim and Yifei to actually have their presentations. And the way we structured today's session is such that we will have 3 presentations from our guests, after which we are going to have a forum discussion during which you're also free to pose your questions by writing them in the chat. So with that said, welcome Yifei and Devrim. Thank you for joining us, and the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Murat. Thanks also for inviting us to this webinar. Glad to meet you all. I will share my screen and start with my presentation, and that is going to be followed by Yifei's presentation. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So my presentation will be on IT tools for enhancing industrial symbiosis. Having very limited time, I straightforward start with a simple description of industrial symbiosis. Let's imagine that there are 2 companies usually operating in traditionally disengaged industries. Company A sending its waste into the landfill, and Company B making use of traditional resource supplied from a traditional resource supplier. So when we implement industrial symbiosis, of course, we have both environmental and economic gainings. company A can divert waste from landfill, and company B can reduce resource depletion from environmental perspective. Company A can save waste discharge cost, and company B can save traditional resource purchase cost from economic perspectives. However, according to the literature, only 0.1% of European enterprises are active in industrial symbiosis. To tackle with this challenge and increase the engagement of these companies in industrial symbiosis, between 2015 and 20, we ran a European project called ShareBox, Secure Sharing. In this project, we tried to implement an IT platform where companies can share information and implement industrial symbiosis between each other. We took a perspective of macro, meso, and micro levels. In this presentation, I will specifically talk about micro level, how the business managers see the business case of industrial symbiosis and how we can take it to a network level, creating an industrial symbiosis network. Industrial symbiosis occurs in 4 phases. Identification of the opportunity, assessment of the potential business, which is followed by the implementation, and then monitoring of the performance of the symbiosis. ShareBox was active in all of these phases. So now I would like to go through these phases and show you one example for each phase, what we did in terms of IT tools. So a simple but important challenge is identifying the waste streams. Usually companies, although they are willing to implement industrial symbiosis, they are not aware of the presence of wastes that they can replace with their primary resources in a certain geographic area. So to facilitate this problem, and also as you know, waste is versatile and its categorization is quite complex, and we do not have too sophisticated ontologies. What we tried to do, we tried to implement smart recommender systems within the information technology platform. What does it do? You know, from YouTube or from Netflix, you know, you type in the search area something that you look for, and they recommend you some options, right? This is the same logic. You look for a resource, you look for a waste to replace your traditional resource, and our recommenders that we developed, they make you a suggestion. Scientifically speaking, we made use of association rule mining, hierarchical agglomerative clustering, input-output matching, or case-based reasoning. Here you see an example. What we do here, we write polypropylene and we expect what suggestions, what recommendations give the recommender to us. And here you can see several options together with their EWC codes, European Waste Catalog codes. But as Murat mentioned, we have an information management challenge. I have to say that with these recommenders, we achieved maximum at 33% accuracy. And our data was not very large. Why? We mainly recovered data from our application areas, from industrial clusters, but we encountered problems such as companies are scared to share waste-related data. We encountered the fact of lack of users, and accordingly, we do not have sufficient big data. Then what happens? These recommenders do not perform with high accuracy. What we need for this, actually, we need a standardized waste ontology and a friendly environment, a trustful environment where people can share data and achieve data population. In this way, we can run the algorithms, train the algorithms, and increase the accuracy of these recommenders. Second phase is the business assessment phase. So we said that one company can save waste discharge costs, the other one can save traditional resource purchase costs. but also there are the 3T running costs of industrial symbiosis. These are waste transportation costs, waste treatment costs, and also transaction costs for each company. For this one, actually, we developed a fair cost and benefit sharing tool, which was also embedded in the Sharebox software. What is it about? Cost sharing for industrial symbiosis, so-called COSTIS. And here I depicted a very, very simple example. Imagine that the company A saves 185 euros of discharge cost and the purchase cost saved by the other company is 210 euros. And let's imagine that we have 110 and 40 euros of transportation and treatment costs. Usually how we vision industrial symbiosis is that two companies should be acting as if they are one company. So when you look at here, there is sufficient room for collaboration because what you are saving is almost 400, what you need to spend is 150. But usually companies do not look at the case like this, and they try to pay the less part of these transportation or 3T costs in collaboration. Then what happens? They need to implement cooperation to achieve industrial symbiosis, but they are making competition when it comes to share these costs, additional costs. This is what we call a co-opetition business model. And here in the tool that we developed, we suggested companies a fair sharing mechanism in order to achieve industrial symbiosis and not miss environmentally and socially promising but economically challenging industrial symbiosis opportunities. For this one also a cyber-secure IT platform is needed in order to have trust between companies and learning how to fairly share these costs. So fairness is the last aspect that I'm going to talk, because it is something that companies can learn. For this one, we looked at industrial symbiosis networks, and we made use of cooperative and non-cooperative game theory approaches. And there we tried to understand how companies...
Devrim, sorry to interrupt you. There's only 4 minutes left for you and Yifei, so I just want to inform you.
Yeah, thank you, Murat. Last slide from my side. So companies can learn fair sharing in industrial symbiosis, fair behavior, where we implemented an agent-based modeling approach and simulated this over 1,000 times. And we discovered that in the beginning, although they tend to show opportunistic behavior, after noticing that they are losing potential partners, they start to learn the fair behavior, fair cost-sharing behavior. And we make use of this also in our classes at the University of Twente to teach students the implementation of industrial symbiosis. My colleague Yifei Yu conducted his PhD in the Engineering and Information Platform for Sustainable, Resilient, and Smart Circular Construction Ecosystems, and I would like to pass the word to him. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Devrim. Yifei, you have about 3 minutes to wrap up your part, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me try my best. First of all, give me one moment to share my screen. All right. In the construction industry, we are dealing with quite complex project structure, and we need a very simple and clear structure to simulate and model construction building. And in this case, we take the theory from sharing layers in the buildings, and we move on to simplify each building structure into 3 layers, from internal to middle and external. And those are stuff for the furniture in the middle, in the internal, services, space plan in the middle, and structure and skin in the external. And every time we do a demolition project, you always start from internal layer and you gradually move on to the external layer. But when you do the construction, you do it in a reverse way. It means that we always have this time friction or time difference when you want to match the demolition waste to a new construction project. Starting from this point, we continue to take a case study in the Twente region, and this is some basic data flow structure behind the model. We take the cadastre bag database, feeding the simulation with address, building construction year, the space area, the function. And on the other hand, we take the transportation route from the OpenStreetMap to feeding the simulation.
You have about 1 minute to wrap up, please.
All right. Here is the simulation screen. I will just let it run a little bit, and I will wrap it up after this slide. On this screen, you see multiple building projects are blinking. It means that they're trying to do the business and trade between each other. And there are some certain hubs in between to facilitate this transition. And in this simulation, we created such a matchmaking mechanism that we allow direct transaction between two buildings, but also the indirect transaction via the hub. I'm afraid I don't really have too much time to dive into this model, but overall, I try to use simulation methods to overcome the gap of lacking real-time data from stakeholders.
Excellent, Yifei. And I'm sorry that we had to maybe cut you shorter, but we will come back to your work when we come to the forum discussion. So hopefully you will be able to highlight some of the missing parts later on. Thank you so much.
Right. Yeah.
Great. So I would like to then give the word and the screen to Nikos. I don't know, Nikos, whether you would like to just talk or share your slides, but the screen is yours for the coming 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. Let me share some slides. It's 3 slides, so okay, no, I cannot share because I will have to quit the the browsing. But anyhow, thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I believe, from my standpoint of view, I represent Athenian Brewery, which is basically Heineken Greece. In Greece, we have 2 plants that are both breweries and malteries, and they are both located in industrial areas. So in our journey towards sustainability, towards becoming greener, towards circularity, towards digitalization, I firmly believe that industrial symbiosis is the key. And this is happening currently in Greece by chance and through people connection. So it's not something that is being done in a structured way, in a structured approach, and certainly it is not something that it is, let's say, utilized at its full expense, at its full extent. Now, current symbiosis initiatives are reliant, again, in my view, in the Greek area, on individuals. So we are risking continuity when staff changes occur. Individuals have also specific background and experiences. Therefore, they decide on possible solutions, not on what's available, but based on the knowledge of the people they know, of the industries they know, of the processes they know. So they don't decide what's best. They decide on what they know. Again, this is, in my view, due to not having a structured way. Also, there is another problem. Not all organizations, not all companies have such specific individuals that are, let's say, oriented in collaboration with others, or even if perhaps they don't have the capability to connect with others. So those companies, those organizations, they are left out of all the advantages of a potential symbiosis. Now, current methods depend too much on personal relationships, and this is what we need to change. Now, I talked about industrial parks. So there comes the government oversight, or not a government, because nowadays it is something like a joint venture, let's say, between government and private banks that, let's say, have the control of the industrial parks. But the symbiosis, again, should be part, the symbiosis process should be part, something that could be led by government, ensuring sustainability, accountability, and also the government, they have access to all the stakeholders' information. They know everything, licenses, inputs, outputs, financials, they know everything, but they do not share such information. Now, taking into account those shortcomings, I was thinking, and I'm trying to promote, and we have a very good opportunity through programs like Axel Water, like Coralis, like Theseus, to move forward the needle in the symbiosis. It will be beneficial to add this, to make this in a structured way. That means put it in a platform. There are some existing platforms that could make this work, that could enhance this efficiency in the industrial parks, for example. Then another point that we need to think about is that this symbiosis could or should be neighborhood-driven. There are advantages to be had if industries are in proximity. So inside industrial parks is the best case scenario, in my view. There are some upcoming legislation that will try to put this in a roadmap, but right now they are, let's say, in the designing part. And again comes the government oversight. Since the industrial parks are led by governments, they could share the knowledge they have of the input and outputs of all the streams and create a database that could potentially be inserted in a platform that we are talking about and connect customers and suppliers together of all interested parties. So, for example, if I have a waste stream that I need to get rid of, because for me, for my company, it's a waste, but for another company, it could be an input. And it could be a cheap input because for me, it's a waste. So this would be a win-win, especially if we are close by. Now, I don't know what all the neighboring companies are doing. So this is where the industrial park, through a platform, could come and say, guys, you have in your area those input and those output streams. You can cooperate, pick what you need from this, let's say, bucket, from this menu, and go and check with your neighborhood company if they are interested in this. Start a collaboration, and then start also the circularity between yourselves. And the idea will be the sum of the neighboring industries to become more than what they should be. Of course, this could be enhanced, like we discussed, with a platform with data streams that are being comprehensive, with user-friendly interfaces, so for everyone to be able to monitor this, to participate, and it could have some automated matching algorithms that will say, look, Athenian Brewery, you have a spent grains, a spent yeast waste stream. This, for a company that makes biogas or that makes cattle food, is very beneficial. You have a match, like a Tinder, but for industries. So you could go there and check if you could make a potential collaboration work. Yeah, basically, that's that's my thought.
Excellent, Nikos. Excellent. I particularly like the Tinder for industry approach. I think we're gonna hear more of that going into the future. Great. I think you raised some very interesting points, which I would like to come back to in the forum
Great.
part
Great.
and discuss further. And thank you also for the time efficiency of your speech. With that said, I would like to give the screen and the word to Stella and Babis from ICCS to.
Yes. Thank you, Nikos and Ife and the presentations. Let me share my screen. And as I share it, I want to say that the news tomorrow.
Bobby, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you. We lost you for a short while.
Yes, you lost my joke because the headers in the newspaper will write Nikos Koufokotsios, the leader of the Tinder of the waste management in Greece. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how many time we have, Murat? Because you are very hard in this.
Well, to be fair to you, then I will also keep you to your 12 minutes. 40 seconds of it is already gone. So you have only 18 minutes and 20 seconds left, to be precise.
Nice. So I will. Our presentation has two parts. I will present the work, the research we have done in digital platforms during CORALIS project. And then Stella will give you some insights from her experience to Titan, a very huge corporation in Greece, about some monitoring tools and reporting tools that maybe they may have a potential and should keep in mind. So in CORALIS, we had to deal with knowledge management and how generally a digital tool can facilitate the creation and the industrial symbiosis synergies. So we have tried to take examples from previous projects in order to check what historically has been created. So we had a very good literature and projects review on this topic, so to know where we should be in this research. We have also performed, so we get some ideas. We had some online boards like this we will have also in the second part of this event. So we had an idea about the data, what kind of data and what level of confidentiality and expose, theoretically at least, we should work with. So after this, we have tried to check different perspectives and different users, different types of users that they could use such a tool. So, for example, we have some that they have the motivation institutes and regional or national authority.
Babis, your voice
we have other
your voice keeps cutting. Could turning your camera off help, because we lose your.
Yeah. Maybe yes. Okay. I don't. Maybe now it's better. So we have tried to create user stories and different personas, so to identify the different roles of industrial symbiosis users. I don't know if you can hear me now better.
We hear you much better.
So after all this research, of course, I have a little minutes to express our methodology, we have finalized 3 basic modules that they could be used in order to facilitate all this matchmaking. So we have, of course, the matchmaking mechanism, but also we have to have a module for the community in order to have this networking and this communication. And of course, we have to develop a knowledge repository or a library of cases, so the knowledge is documented in a very standard way, so this data and information can be usable, reusable, and expandable all the time. So our approach follows this flow. You have the matchmaking, the technical matchmaking. You identify some synergies, automatic way via an algorithm or other methodologies. Then you have the community in which you work on these ideas, on these potential synergies. You do the proper communication. And then when you have synergies implemented or operated, you document all this knowledge in order to be an example or to be a documented practice and know the bad and the good things, the measured benefits and the measured results. So this was our approach after all this. We have developed also some matchmaking frameworks in other projects as well, as Axel Potter. But this could be used in CORALIS as well, and in other future projects like Theseus. It will be expanded and adjusted in regional context. So we have created an algorithm that takes into consideration the compliance between the two possible partners. Of course, some technical issues based on the flow that is going to be reused, and of course, some assessment in order to be able to measure the impact that these synergies will have and select based on the overall impact of any synergy. Of course,
Bobby's half of the time that is allocated to ICCS is gone. Just be aware.
Okay. So I will finish now to CORALIS. Have worked with ontologies in order to be able to create and propose ontologies and some specific data models used in order to standardize all this knowledge. So we have worked on this as well, because this is an important point in order to have information reusable for the next research and projects. And these are some screenshots from the actual CORALIS tool. That we may have the opportunity to present it in other events. So you have, for example, here you have a knowledge repository of cases, and the user can search on in which we have also created some groups like a social media approach in order to have discussion based on this. And this is my last slide, and then I will give the floor to Stella. And now our next research objectives is to create more holistic systems that they don't serve only industrial symbiosis, integrate several other things. So we make daily operations integrated to the IES and the circular economy modules to be integrated in the daily life of any corporation. So this was my approach. I tried hard to be quick, and now I will give the floor to Stella. And Stella, let me know when you want to.
Okay, I will. Yeah. How much time I have? Like
yeah. You have actually about 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes. Okay.
I'll give you 4.
Thank you. Okay, Bambi. What I will try to I think the part of my presentation links to what Nikos Koufokotsios was referring to, and because as Babi said, I used to work for a heavy industry in Greece for the last 10 years at the sustainability department, and recently I've joined ICCS, and I try to get familiar with all of these digital solutions and platforms that really companies are not aware of or are a bit reluctant to be more aware of. What's the issue usually with a company is that they don't want, no company wants to do double reporting or share a lot of data. So this slide gives an overview of what companies already share, at least in Greece, with the public authorities in a very structured way, and that most of the information could be available online, but it's now available mainly for the Ministry of Environment. So companies in Greece, big companies, share information about their waste. There is a digital waste registry. They share information about the pollutants release. They share information with Hellenic Statistics Authority about waste in a very specific template formed by Eurostat. They share information with the Hellenic Recycling Agency as regards packaging mostly, and they share information about the greenhouse gas emissions if they are part of the EU ETS regulation. What we also know is that companies internally do have ERP systems to manage and to control the production and the waste data. Most companies, many big companies produce sustainability reports that are audited for the information, and so they do have structured information related to circular economy. They also respond to structured questionnaires like CDP on climate change and water. And internally, they struggle to find a common tool, but internal tool, to gather this information and then through API share it with any platform and anybody that uses that. So the need is there. If we move to the next slide, what I would like to say is that the future is really promising. To my point of view, because there is now in place a new directive, which is called the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. It covers 50,000 companies across Europe. For the big companies, I will not get into the detail because we don't have the time, but anyway, already now in February, March, big companies around Europe will produce reports based on this directive. And what's interesting is that together with the directive, there are two requirements. One is already in place, and it's the requirement for a European reporting framework. So there are now sustainability reporting standards. And at the next slide, we will see that there is a special pillar on circular economy. So here we are now. And the other requirement of the directive was the digital tagging of the information. So the information in the sustainability reports will be tagged, and there is a specific format in which it will be provided, and it will be shared and useful for data for comparison of performance between companies. So these are the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. ESRS number 5, E5, is dedicated to resource use and circular economy, and there are specific provisions to provide data about resource inflows and outflows. And if we go to the next slide, you will see in detail that there are...
If you could wrap up slowly, that would be great.
Yes, there are specific data points that are about the total weight of hazardous waste, waste generated and recycling. And last slide, what I was trying to stress out now today is that more data will be available, specific data about and the specific calculation method about resource inflows and outflows, about waste generation and waste management. And this kind of information will be in a specific XBRL formatting and digitally tagged, and this will facilitate this will make data available and interoperable in the European market. So it's good to have it in mind when designing matchmaking frameworks and digital tools for this. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella, and my apologies to all the speakers to stressing you, some of you. But you raised a lot of very interesting points. I hope the audience agrees, and I would like to maybe follow some of them. If you have questions from the audience, please post them in the chat. We will try to attend to them during the webinar, and if not, maybe the speakers will reach out to you afterwards to give you the answers. Yefei, I feel like we have been very harsh on you by cutting your time. So actually, I would like to start by you. You seem to have developed quite an interesting tool, but what came out of it? What was its impact?
All right. First of all, no problem at all for the timing. And I think we didn't really. This is a part of our research limitations. We didn't really implement it in the real scale. However, we did a small scale test in a limited stakeholder workshop, and we collect in-person feedback about it. And I think one of the most important impacts is not really at the business level or the operational level, but we successfully use this model to change the way how people see their business. I think this is a very interesting point, because most of the time when we talk about tool, we talk about the KPI and how they bring money to the company. But on the other hand, I think the tool sometimes can also be a very important, a new way for helping you to realize your business and company in a new situation. I think this mindset changing is the most great findings from my point.
Very interesting, Ife. Thank you. And I know that in some of the Swedish municipalities, this construction waste is increasingly an important topic. And if I understand it right, getting the mass balance and finding the space to store and process the material is an important challenge. And I could definitely see that some of the Swedish municipalities can benefit from this model that you have, so that they will know how much material needs to be stored where and etc. Devrim, I would like to move on to you while we are on the Dutch peninsula, so to say. Your tools seem to have some intricate elements. How did it work? For example, this sharing of costs and benefits. Marianne and I, we also did some work in that, and we actually figured out that the industry has very pragmatic ways of solving these kind of issues. Most of the time it works quite well. But what was your experiences, the benefit sharing approach that your tool proposed? Did it deliver any superior results?
Yes, actually, the companies, as I also mentioned in my presentation, they are having a bit of difficulty to foresee the total economic benefits of industrial symbiosis. When you approach to the case as a traditional business, it usually doesn't work even in the beginning. So when we propose these tools, people liked it consortium, but they said, why shall we share a production recipe and information related to the waste and resources, and why shall I share some of my costs with the other side? Okay, then we worked on this, and we implemented 3 scenarios where companies do not share any information, they share only physical resource information, and they share physical resource information and economic information, monetary information. We observed that the online sharing platform from first scenario to the third scenario is increasing the economic performance. So that was a facilitator to convince companies to make use of this tool. And finally, one more thing, following their request, we said, okay, let's make 2 versions of this. Dual version and uni version. So in the dual version, you can disclose the data to the other side, but in the other version, if you say, I don't want to share this and that data, I do not share it, keep it only for the platform, and platform makes the calculations for you, but the other side doesn't see it. So that also relieved their concerns.
Thank you, Devrim. You also mentioned something that captured my attention, that not many users were attracted to this, you said. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Your question relates to the recommenders part, actually. when we made this project, we had 4 countries who tested it, where we made matchmaking workshops, and we collected data and inserted in Excel, and then we operated these recommenders. Again, companies who are direct partners of the project, they were rather comfortable to share data and make use of the tool. But companies who are located in the same industrial clusters, but not making direct part of the project, they were very skeptic about sharing knowledge about their waste. So they say it like kind of, why should I tell you how much garbage I have in my house?
Right.
And although we try to explain that this has environmental and economic returns to you, so it will create benefits, we couldn't achieve a very high population of data. Although we created quite a lot synergies in these regions, please consider that recommender algorithms require very big data to accurately work. That is also a challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darim. Nikos, I would like to turn to you because I think in your presentation you supported this idea that our colleagues from Kallenbrook actually pinpointed many years ago. They said systems make it possible, people make it happen. And you gave examples that actually people do make this happen, but people have their limited scope and their limited network and they are mobile. And maybe they are more mobile today than they used to be 10, 15 years ago. People move between companies. But to me, still, it stuck with the fact that people do make it happen, actually. Maybe not the best solution, maybe not the longest lasting solution, but still they make this happen. And then I would like to link it to one of the important scientific studies in this area about information tools. I don't remember the name, which is embarrassing for me, of the author, but he quite nicely said that one of the main problems of information tools is that they are trying to substitute the human element rather than supplementing the human element. So I hear you say that the human element is important, but they need to be supplemented. And if you agree with that, what kind of supplementation would you consider is necessary? Because I think the personal relationships, reaching out to networks that you know, to the trusted people, etc., is still a valuable thing. But how can we address these by maybe improving the scope of people when they search for options, improving their network so that they can reach out to more actors, and maybe somehow anchor these things in the organization so that when people move on, the relationships still remain anchored. Do you have any ideas on how the new tools or the existing tools can help with these?
Correct. I totally agree with what it was said, and nicely said. I mean, we are talking about industrial symbiosis or collaboration, and the same thing should happen between people and platforms. So they should be in a kind of symbiosis. None of the two can do the other one's work. So the idea will be for a platform to be able to supplement the human element in those drawbacks that we have discussed about. So in the part of continuity from people moving around the companies, the drawback, if you narrow it down, is basically the lack of structure. So a platform, a digital tool could help with the structure of the whole thing, to have a history, to have, let's say, the options available and the contact persons of each collaborator. And then you also mentioned the scope. So the scope is indeed based, if we are talking only about human, then it is based on their knowledge. But if you have a tool, the tool should show you all the options, all the available options. But again, like in the beginning, the tool can only reach thus far. It can make you some matches, but in the end, it is the chemistry between the persons that will get the job done actually. The tool will give you the spark to make the start. It will give you the idea, but the human must be there to finish the job, to make get the pass and score the goal. Otherwise, the tool cannot make a collaboration. You need both. You need both, actually. Both the platform and the human elements. I believe this is the key.
Very nicely put, Nikos. Thank you. I totally agree with you. You also mentioned quite rightly that the public authorities or the park organizers already sit on a lot of information that can be useful. At least in the Swedish context, we have the same situation that the municipalities receive environmental reports from the organizations, and they have officers that actually go and check compliance. And these people have a lot of relevant information that can, if processed rightly, can also be used to direct people to their synergistic opportunities. And a couple of years ago, we looked into this a bit, but one of the issues that we faced is that this information is not public. So the public authorities are not allowed to share the information that they get it from one company freely with the other one. How is the situation in your context? Can there be any such privacy issues that come in the way?
I understand this, but at least regarding the sustainability part, I believe all those informations nowadays, I'm not sure what happened, I don't know, 5 years ago, but nowadays they should all be publicly available. I mean, all the environmental licenses, and the environmental licenses do have all the streams that go in and out of an industry, they are publicly available. So there is nothing to hide. I could search, okay, you have to know where to search, but if you know, you can find all the information right now for Athenian Brewery, for Friesland Gambina, for everyone that is in the vicinity. Anyhow, for all Greek companies, the environmental licenses are publicly available. And those licenses, they have the most of it. CO2 emissions, again, publicly available. If a company is compliant or not, it is publicly available. The energy that it uses, perhaps not the volume, not the prices, but what kind of energy, it is publicly available. And nowadays, you see, in everything related to sustainability, for example, the companies are eager to share it. They themselves make it publicly available. So, I mean, it will be... I believe this issue could be overcome, at least on what is related to sustainability. Other information could be, yes, more difficult to obtain. But this, they could be, I believe they are available right now.
Right. Yeah, thank you. And Babis, why yet another tool? What was the tool that you and your colleagues so diligently worked on in CORALIS? What was the unique offer that justified this effort, and how did it at the end work?
Yeah, to be really honest, that's a very good question for also the next projects. Why to create some other tool that facilitate the industrial symbiosis? So I think now the valuable insight of all this research we have done together and we have done to the other project as well is not how to create a new platform, but how you will integrate these modules, these features and these functionalities into existing business as usual of the companies. So again, now I think we have to focus on the use of these functionalities and not just create more and more platforms about this. This is why in my last slide, we were trying to create a flexible data management module that will be integrated in existing platforms. And maybe also there is a huge value if we manage to edit and give feedback in online data that companies and industries are collecting. For example, if a company collects live data in its process, if you manage to have valuable insights on the fly on this data. Maybe this is a very good, a very strong benefit and motivation for the industry to participate in industrial symbiosis synergies. So, with one word, not new platforms, but integrate the industrial symbiosis into the business as usual of the companies. This would be my final sentence on this.
Thank you, Babis. One word, last sentence was about, I think, 12 or 14 words, but we will let that slip. Excellent. I will actually take a diversion, and I will take the fact that one of the participants we have in here is Nadia from Kalundborg. I think everybody who works in the industrial symbiosis world knows about Kalundborg. And as we also know that, double-digit synergies have developed and disappeared in Kalundborg. And to my knowledge, so far, without the use of any external information or knowledge management tool. Nadia, what are your reflections? What is the role that the information and knowledge platforms, digital platforms can play? How come did the Kalundborg partners so far manage to create so many synergies without using them? And do you think, looking into the future, things may look differently if any of the tools that our friends discussed here or anything else you might be working on can make a difference?
Yes. Thank you, Murat. I just would like to say that our pioneer in Kalundborg symbiosis, once he said that three very important things in the symbiosis is communication, communication, communication. But now we can say that other three things, actually, it's communication, trust, and today I'm just sure it's also information. Because in the beginning, it was like very, very simple process because companies in Kalundborg, they just knew each other and they communicated privately as well. And they actually made all these projects together. But you know that now we are 16 partners and it's quite difficult to make synergies. And that's why we have to meet each other. We have to communicate, and we can see that we need a tool which we are developing right now, because we need information, we need the tool to share information between companies.
Thank you, Nadia. And of course, we discussed that a bit with our speakers before the event as well. And we were moving towards the conclusion that these tools, of course, have a significant role to play. They can really make a big contribution, but there needs to be some groundwork before that. Of course, parties need to be interested in doing these things, because data can be there, but people are not interested in making use of that data. If people are not interested in creating partnerships, no matter how much data there is, will not make a big difference. And very happy, Nadia, that you raised the importance of trust, because once there is trust, of course, everybody's approach to these kind of things become much more in a different level. And perhaps we may add that the trust is not only between the parties themselves, but perhaps trust towards the coordinators can also be an important thing, that the information is not going to be abused, etc. So with that said, I would like to see, is there any questions from our participants?
May I quickly add a remark here? I don't know if I got enough time. A simple example. I take Google Map as an example. Previously, we don't really need Google Map because we travel in one city town. But nowadays, we can't go anywhere without map because we travel much larger distance. So in this case, another very big reason why we need digital technology here in the industrial symbiosis is to explore unknown business opportunity at a larger scale. To explore unknown business at a larger scale. Then in this scenario, you can't rely on the conventional way because there's so much more you need to process at this very short time. Thank you.
This was an excellent final comment. Thank you very much. I agree with you. As industrial symbiosis progresses and reaches into its version 3, 4, 5, I think the importance of information tools and digital tools will only going to grow. And we have not yet even touched the mountain of the artificial intelligence and what kind of possibilities it's going to generate. I would like to thank all of our participants for taking part. I would like to thank all the presenters for joining us today. Please stay tuned for additional webinars that is going to come from CORALIS. And Bobby already mentioned that, but there's going to be a workshop after this event. So those of you who are interested in joining this workshop, please stay in that room and continue the discussion. For the rest of us, many thanks for joining us. Enjoy your weekends, and hopefully our paths will cross sometime soon. Happy symbiosis.